Today I'm joined by Jason Trzaskowski, our Utilities Supervisor with the Water and Wastewater Department. Thanks for joining us today, Jason.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
We want to talk a little bit today about the Water and Wastewater Department because not everybody knows what you guys do. So we were curious if you could tell us a little bit about the activities that your department is responsible for and what are some of the most common things that you deal with in a day?
For the most part, we deal with underground infrastructure. So that's things like service connections, water mains, valves, storm and sanitary infrastructure as well. Basically anything under the ground, pipes under the ground that the city owns. And for the most part, our workload is, I mean, it could be any of those things, but typically we deal with leaks the most. Service leaks, main leaks. Service connections are a big one too.
So water main breaks, that's a really big thing that you deal with in the space of a day. When you get on site, what does that process typically look like from beginning to end for you?
I guess, well, that depends too. Like, it depends on when we get the call. We have on-call staff 24/7 to respond to after-hours emergencies if needed. So if the call comes in the middle of the night, those guys will go out and they will shut off the water. Typically, we don't do any notifying in the middle of the night. It's kind of a double-edged sword if you happen to live on that block, because you're either getting woken up in the middle of the night to be told that your water is being shut off, or you wake up in the morning to no water. So I mean, it's a lose-lose situation for everyone involved. But if the water's already off, then it's first call locates, and then we get to work. If the water is still running, then part of the first thing we have to do obviously is isolate it. So once the leak's isolated and first call locates are all in and marked, then we can begin excavating, and then you try to find the source of the leak and diagnose the issue and make the repairs.
If a water main break does come in at a regular time of day, let's say, how does that process of letting people know about what you're doing work?
Well, in conjunction with you fine folks in communications, we put out a public service announcement letting people know of the outage, and also we go door to door and let residents know face to face and leave door hangers with instructions for people to follow in terms of the precautionary boil advisory and what that process looks like for testing.
Why is that precautionary boil water advisory in place?
Well, essentially because you've depressurized the water main, and anytime you do that, it allows an opportunity for foreign objects to enter it. So obviously that's not a good thing when it comes to drinking water. So it's a precaution for people to ensure they have safe water to drink.
What are some of the roles of the staff members when you're on site?
Each dig crew has typically at least 7 workers on it. That includes a crew lead, a safety watch, a power excavator operator, 2 truck drivers, and 2 pipe fitters. They all work together on site in terms of isolating, getting up barricades, closing the road, notifying residents of the shutdown. Everyone sort of has a dedicated role, but anybody could be asked to do anything on site to help out with the effort.
During that process, when people's water is shut off and you're out there working, who are they advised to contact if they have questions or concerns about what's going on?
If they have any questions, they can contact operations. We don't really want people approaching the crew if not absolutely necessary. It's for everyone's safety involved.
And how does that process of people regaining their water work? So what needs to be fixed on site, and then what are those testing processes and timelines?
Well, I mean, obviously, the water coming out of the pipe is the repair. That comes in different shapes and sizes. Sometimes you have total blowouts. Sometimes you have frost cracks. That just depends, and depending on what you come across, sometimes you have to cut pipe out. Sometimes you can just use a repair clamp. So that all affects the timelines. Some jobs take longer than others to complete, but once the repairs are complete, we start loading the line. That has to happen slowly because you're pressurizing up old cast iron. Typically is where the leaks occur. So you have to be really careful with that. You don't want to load it too quickly or it'll just break again. So that takes some time. But But as that's occurring, we'll go door to door. We'll let people know that the water is being turned back on. We will typically ask them to open a cold water tap or two just to help bleed out the air. And depending on the length of the isolation and also the size of pipe, that sometimes can take quite a while because you can't rush it. Once the water is back on, we have staff come out and collect samples that get sent to the provincial lab for analysis, bacteria analysis. That's usually like a day or two turnaround. And depending on the type of leak, sometimes you need one sample, sometimes you need two. Water main breaks are always two. Individual services are only one. So anytime you have a water main break, you have to send the two samples to the lab. So the first one's collected, analyzed, we get the results back. Then at that point, we take another one, it gets sent away, same thing. And then once we get two good samples, we can release the block from the boil advisory.
And so you have color-coded hangers that you put on the doors. What do each of those different colors mean?
Yes, we have red door hangers, yellow door hangers, and green door hangers. Red are emergency boil advisory. So like if we have to come shut the water main off and the block is under a boil advisory, that's the one they get. Yellow is for planned work. So if we're planning a shutdown and it's less emergent, more planned, so people have advance notice of the upcoming work. And green door hangers are after everything's all said and done and the water quality has been tested and comes back good.
And how do you determine when you're out in the fields how far that break is going to affect different houses?
Well, we have maps of our infrastructure, so you would see where the valves are and what valves you need to control the leak. Typically, there are valves at each intersection. Sometimes there aren't, so you have to branch out. Sometimes they don't work because they're old, so you have to branch out. And sometimes they break because they're old, so you have to branch out. So that's all. It varies from job to job. I mean, it depends on location and the age of the infrastructure and the alignment of the valves.
And often when you're out working, you're either digging up into the road or sometimes you'll be digging into people's lawns. What should residents know about that safety around open trenches on roads and sidewalks and their lawns?
Essentially, just obey the barricades. I mean, we set up work zones to protect ourselves and the public. We want people to stay out of the work zones, and those are designated by barricades. So I know if we're digging a hole in your front yard, it's pretty tempting to come out there and watch, or pretty tempting to come out there and chat, or people are interested in what's going on, especially if there's a bunch of people and equipment on their front lawn. But we would just kindly ask that you stay back and let us do our thing, and that way everyone is safe.
What do residents need to know about that short-term versus long-term process when it comes to doing these repairs? Because you come and you dig up the road and then cover it over as sort of a temporary patch, and then you come back later on. Public Works comes back later on and does a more permanent patch. So what is that process like?
Typically, excavations are allowed to settle for at least a year before permanent repairs are made to the hard surface. That just prevents any extra settling that might occur in between time. So I guess the message is be patient. I mean, we want to do things properly, and I understand that people want them done in a timely manner, but if we dug a hole last week and it's paved this week, it's going to settle. So we just try to do the best we can to make sure that things are done settling before we permanently restore hard surface and landscaping and such.
And if people notice that that temporary patch is kind of settling a little bit and making the road a little bit uneven, what should they do in that situation?
Well, they can call and report it, or they can report it on the app. We have crews that go around and top up those excavations that settle out over time. You see that quite often after rain or during thaw events where the temporary patches become not the greatest. So if you come across those things in your travels, let us know and we'll address them.
What makes for a more difficult water main repair? And can you talk about maybe some of the more difficult repairs that you've done?
Some of the things that make it more difficult are depth. I mean, some of the deeper mains, obviously anytime you're digging deeper in the ground, it makes things more challenging. Control, how good is your control? I mean, are you able to do a good job isolating? Do the valves allow you to shut off the water completely? Sometimes when they are, still leaking when you're trying to do repairs, it makes it a little more challenging. You need things like vac trucks and pumps, and it's just in the cold and in the wet, it's not a good combination for anybody.
And have you come across anything strange over your years of dealing with underground infrastructure?
Yeah, once in a while, depending on the areas that you're in. If you're in some of the older areas in town, there are still remnants of old cedar wooden water lines that used to make up the distribution system. We found a lot of cool antique bottles and stuff from the crews that were installing things way back in the day. Their garbage has been sort of time capsuled in the ground. It's kind of neat.
Too cool. And is there anything else that I haven't asked you that you want people to know about?
Yeah, we're doing the best we can. We are all members of the community, and we all know what it's like to be affected by these types of outages. So we just ask that you're patient, and we're doing everything we can to make sure that your water is being turned back on in a timely manner.
Great. Thank you for joining us today, Jason, and thank you everyone for watching.
Thanks.